All right, we're joined by Chris Martin, the head strength and conditioning coach for baseball here at LSU. First and foremost, thanks for having us and taking the time.
Absolutely, pumped for you guys to be here.
Let's start with kind of general philosophy, right? Because when it comes to strength and conditioning, obviously like everything else in the sports world, we've just increased and advanced in our technology and information. So kind of as we sit here today in 2025, what's kind of the big philosophy on getting guys stronger and making sure they're ready to go?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is I'm a strength coach by trade, strength coach by title, but I'm not in the business of making better weightlifters. This is what I tell a lot of people is I'm in the business of making better baseball players. I'm a strength and conditioning coach for baseball and baseball only. So we're trying to make better baseball players. So I'm using strength and conditioning as a vehicle for them to express the skills and the talent that they have on the field. So again, if I take your deadlift from 300 to 500 pounds and nothing changes out on the field, then like we haven't really accomplished anything. So that's first and foremost. I think doing that while keeping guys as healthy as possible is a secondary, call it 1B tier of this, especially at the collegiate level where having your best players healthy gives you a huge advantage, and we can't turn guys over like maybe in professional baseball. So we're trying to maximize performance on the field while staying as healthy as possible doing it.
How important then is it to kind of individualize programming within the strength and conditioning, like overall philosophy that you may have to getting guys better? Are you putting guys into different buckets of like, hey, he really needs to work on this so we can fix A, B, or C out on the field?
Absolutely. So we've got different buckets, and I've got different tiers. So generally, guys are going to fall into a strength development tier or a power development tier. Some of the younger dudes with lower training ages, maybe more of a foundational, or we really just hammer the basics. But we'll have those two general buckets. Pitchers and position players are running, I would say, similar but slightly different programs. Like there are considerations for both that you need to make, but I don't think pitchers need to be on an island with this completely different program. And then within those buckets, there's also going to be individualization. So let's take a squat, for example. If we're trying to develop maximal or submaximal strength with a squat, and maybe we're doing 4 sets of 5 at 0.6 meters per second on the perch, we might have a group of guys doing back squats. A couple guys might be doing safety squats. You might see some front squats going on. You may see some guys with heels elevated. We may have some guys over here on the pitch sharks doing belt squats. And so lots of different considerations there in terms of structural, like how does their body prefer to move and what are their preferred movements? Are there any movement solutions maybe we're trying to open up? What kind of injury history considerations do we have to make? And what kind of player preferences? So if there's a guy where I'm like, man, if you're back squatting and to me heels elevated versus not heels elevated isn't going to make a huge difference, but you feel better with the one, well, let's go with that and drive up a little bit more intent versus like forcing you to do something you don't like. So this isn't where prisoners run the prison, right, per se. I hope our guys don't view themselves as prisoners, but their input is absolutely part of designing their program. This is not a dictatorship, so I'm not going to ever walk in and say you're doing this, this, and this. If a guy comes to me and say we're squatting and a certain variation doesn't feel great on the low back, we're going to change it. Or if I'm getting signs either on our force plates or subjectively that he's fatigued, well, maybe we'll switch the volume or the intensity for that day. So lots of different little nuanced individualizations going on, whether it's from what do they need performance-wise on the field and what's going to drive the needle? Do they need to get faster? Do they need to get stronger? Is there a mobility deficiency that we're working on? What do the coaches see in terms of what's actually happening in their movements? So that those conversations happen all the time, whether that's just observing practice and seeing what a guy might need to work on, or if it's through biomechanical readings that we're getting, and we'll sit down and meet on that. And so then we can help supplement some of those things in the gym as well.
How often are you like assessing and reassessing then? Because everyone kind of moves differently, and as you continue to get stronger, your body kind of changes, as well as you get older, you're dealing with college guys here. How often are you kind of like assessing what they need, how they move, and then kind of reassessing and going back because things change throughout the course of a year?
So our players with our athletic training staff will do a full movement screen beginning of the year and when they get back from winter break. So they're hitting those at least twice a year, and that's full body We're going to look at range of motion. We're going to look at gross movement patterns. We might check some strength measures, whether it's shoulder, grip, things like that. The pitchers have a select battery of tests that they're going to do at least once a week. A little more pertinent, especially when it comes to arm injuries and arm health and things like that. They'll do that. In here, we're getting objective measures on force plates in terms of outputs at least once a week. That's a bare minimum. We're doing body comp assessments 4 times a year with guys, so beginning and end of the fall, right before the season, and end of the season. So there's another piece of the assessment process. A couple other little tests that we'll do in here, and then every day that they're training is also an assessment to my eye, and with the coach's eye, and saying like, okay, do we look like we're moving better, or are we accomplishing the changes that we need to make?
And then when you bring in young guys, right? So when we're talking about 18-year-olds who are coming in here, some of them probably pretty raw. What's some of the biggest kind of jumps that you see for guys that they need to get on the field? Because sometimes you probably get guys in here that are really talented and can do a lot on the baseball field, but their body might not be able to handle it yet just because they don't have that strong base. So what are some of the things that you see from those young guys that they really need to kind of learn?
It's really individualized. The first thing I'll say is I think high school athletes at the highest levels at least are coming to college more prepared physically than they ever have, and that's just a testament to what's happening in most or a lot of private sector, and even at the high school level, like the coaching level and the availability of good resources for these kids is getting better. So a lot of them are coming to school in a much better spot. But then it's individual from there. So we've got some freshmen who are highly skilled players where it's like, yeah, we just need to build the engine, build the hardware, and get the physically up to speed. We've got some freshmen who have played a ton of sports growing up, and this is the first time that they've ever played baseball year-round. We have a couple guys, this is the first time they played baseball in the fall, where super athletic, super just raw, toolsy, great physicality. Now, like on the skill side, we're going to see this exponential rise where it's like, okay, now I'm just playing baseball, and I'm going to learn more about this in the next month than I have my whole life. So it really just depends on the guy, but we've got some guys where, yeah, physicality is kind of the low-hanging fruit at that time. Sometimes it's the skill and tactical side of things, and sometimes it might be something where it's like, this guy's strong for coming in, but we need to clean up some movement patterns or some proprioception, body awareness, kinesthetics, things like that.
So when you're putting guys into these buckets and you're kind of individualizing it for them, they have to believe in it, right? They have to buy in. What are some of the keys in your mind to creating that buy-in for these athletes so they're believing in it and they're putting the work in?
Well, I pride myself in being a baseball guy and not just trying to link what happens in the weight room to the baseball field, but just like understanding the game as a whole, whether that's pitch arsenal design or swing decisions, things like that. If I can speak their language and they understand that, okay, I actually know what's happening here at a high level, that's going to drive some buy-in. Another piece, if they ask me why we're doing anything on their lift sheet or anything outside for sprint work, if I can't give them a reason, then we probably shouldn't be doing it in the first place. Everything has a place. And sometimes it is maybe, hey, this is a bit experimental, but I'm at least going to be upfront with them about that and not say like, oh, we're going to do this because I know it works. It's going to be like, hey, this is something I've been kind of playing with, toying with, thinking about. I think it's going to do this. What do you think about giving it a try? And so just being very open, very honest about, okay, these are some big rocks, some things that we know are going to work and they're going to be foundational and fundamental to our program. And then there are times we're going to try new things. And so just being open with them and just being as honest, like truly honest as possible with, hey, I've got your best interest in mind. I'm trying to make you the best player that you can be, because that's going to be good for the Tigers, but it's also going to be good for you as an individual in terms of having on-field success, getting to the professional level, and then not just getting there, but ascending quickly, having success, and living out your dream of being a big leaguer.
We're standing here, see all the names of some of the pretty impressive alums that are in the big leagues in this room we're standing in. How important is it for the guys that you have now to see these guys, honestly, their locker, but then when they come in and are training in here in the off-season?
Oh, it's hugely invaluable for our guys. When you've got people like Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, Kevin Gossman that are here almost every day in an off-season. I would say last fall, my first fall here, on any given day during the week, we probably have between 4 and 6 former players in the building, and they're in here getting their work done, because once you leave this program and enter professional baseball, you are always welcome back. You are part of the Tiger family, and that's what this pro locker room is really designed for. It's like, hey, this is your space. And if these nameplates are interchangeable, so if somebody's going to be in town for a week and they let us know, boom, you're going to have a locker here, you're going to have some space, and we want you to be able to utilize these resources moving forward. But for our current guys, who better to pick the brains of about the game of baseball than the best pitcher on the planet right now?
Right.
Or a guy, Kevin Gossman, who's been in the big leagues for 10 years and had a lot of success doing it. Or a guy like Dylan Cruz, who was one of the best college players that we've seen probably ever, and is now starting to break into the big leagues and figure that piece out. So you've got people of all sorts of experience levels in the professional game, but they're here, and they like nothing more than to talk baseball with our guys, help them kind of think about the game better or attack their work better and just make them better players, because they like to see LSU have success too.